2025. Going straight into the agenda, first of all, apologies for absence. Everyone is here. Second, declarations of interest. Are there any? None given. Move on to item number 3, which is update on the digital transformation programme, and this is going to be given by Jamie Reid. Thank you, Jamie.
Good morning. The paper before you on the digital transformation strategy closes off the 2022 to 2025 cycle of digital transformation. Members will recall that that's made up of 3 work streams: business systems and processes, customer and workforce productivity. The programme has delivered £1.7 million of recurring savings, of which £1.4 million have been contributed through time-based efficiencies as well. The report before you also highlights some significant channel shift, with a 20 to 30% reduction in calls into Customer First, and increased sign-ups and residents to major systems such as My East Ren, Council Tax and Benefits, Parents Portal, Housing, and the migration of 3,000 vulnerable residents to a new digital telecare support system. Over the course of this cycle, there have been system changes that have touched every household in East Renfrewshire and every employee. The Council continues to modernise our core infrastructure to set us up for the future, and there are 4 short case studies at the back of the report that highlight the story behind these changes in a bit more depth. Work is well underway on a new digital transformation strategy that will be brought before members later in 2025, which builds on the learning from the previous cycles. So members are asked to note the wide range of achievements delivered across the 3 programmes from 2021 to 2025, acknowledge the closure of this cycle of digital transformation, and the intention to bring forward a refreshed digital strategy later in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Can I open up Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the report, Jamie. Always well received and very significant. The improvements in performance and productivity, the savings. I think we all know the benefits of digital transformation and what we can achieve with it. But the one thing that concerned me a little bit, but you mentioned obviously the update in December. I'm assuming the next strategy will be quite heavy on AI, potentially. I know that the infrastructure has been upgraded to support Copilot, etc. But I'd be surprised if some of the staff aren't already using, for example, ChatGPT, unless they're not allowed to try and improve their existing, working practices. And I thought possibly there might be more in about what AI can actually do, because it can, even an overall AI strategy, because it touches everything, like customer service and productivity, etc. And the key thing for me is that I know very much, and I'm sure you do too, that it can accelerate digital transformation. So if you could give me more background maybe on, what may be coming in the future. Right.
Sure, happy to do that. So yes, AI is part of the future transformation strategy. It will be a component within that, along with a range of other technologies, because AI is just one part of a picture. AI in and of itself can't actually take action, so you need additionality there that can do some of the automated processing that the AI is linked to. So we are looking at all of that in the round, and AI is a key component of that. It's also vitally important that I think we deploy AI in the current generation of it's quite a new technology, and it's important that we do that in a very ethical, mindful and compliant way. So we are moving forward with that in a very planned way to make sure that the information governance component of what AI will ingest, where the information will go, whether there are biases in particular models or the outputs of that, all of that has been taken into account. So we are moving forward. We're mindful of the risks round about it as well, and the assurance that the public needs round about that. So we are moving forward very intentionally and very thoughtfully about how we do that, but it is a key component of the solution moving forward.
Definitely agree with you on the aspect of it has the capability to inform, but also misinform, and it's I agree with that part of it, and very much look forward to seeing the paper. Does it say December? I think. No.
It'll be later. It'll be later this year. It'll be after recess.
Oh, was it not a specific? Okay. Look forward to that. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Pragnell.
Thank you for this paper. I've just got a few comments and then I've got a question. First of all, thank you for including the case studies. It really brings actually the level of work to the forefront, and I think we don't always realise how big a piece of work this was. And obviously, it's happening in a stage by stage process. Also, I think the telecare services transformation from analog to digital should be commended, and I know that was not an easy task, and I'm pleased that East Renfrewshire did receive recognition for completing this on time. And actually, when I was at Causeway Health and Social Care board meetings, it was mentioned that East Renfrewshire were leading the way on this. I've just got one question. It's on the quality, fairness and rights impact assessments. It is mentioned in the paper, but are you confident that as a council we are meeting the needs of the whole population we serve? I only say this because I've witnessed several times people coming into Eastwood HQ looking for customer first support because they still think it's on a drop-in basis, and there's been no one to kind of assist with them. So is this a case of just increasing the messaging around this? I know in primarily the bar head offices where we do customer first drop-ins and appointments, but it does seem that maybe the messaging hasn't quite got out to members of the public on this, particularly those who struggle with digital connectivity.
Thanks, Councillor Pragnell. Yeah, the changes to customer provision at Eastwood HQ were taken a number of years ago, actually as part of a budget cut and trying to reduce down traffic, and it was also based on where the footfall of traffic was locally, and that was tended to be heavier in the bar head office than here. So we moved here to an appointment only basis and mainly focusing around registration, etc., and we took cash handling away from Council HQ at that point. However, what we do is we do try to serve people that appear here. We don't send people away without giving them somebody to speak to or trying to solve their queries for them. So we do operate that. We try to encourage people to go online and obviously go to the bar head office. But when people do turn up here, I know we had, for example, a very busy day the other day. There was a range of older people who'd appeared with lots of different queries the other day, and the receptionist was telling me that we'd managed to handle all of them and deal with all of those people, but quite an influx of people at that point. So I think we can do more to get the messaging out, but it's that balance for us about we still want to be responsive to people, we still want people to have to travel to Barrhead if we could deal with them. But we did make a budget cut and we are trying to manage with that at the same point.
Any other questions? No. Jamie, I'd just like to say this is an excellent report. Thank you very much. It shows a great deal of self-confidence and increasing confidence, and an increased pace of delivery, which is really, really welcome. And as we all know, success breeds success. So this, leads very well into the new strategy in terms of the ambition for that. AI was mentioned. I'm sure that will be at the core of that strategy as we go forward, and we look forward to seeing that later in the year. So thank you very much to yourself and Kenny for this paper. Thank you very much. Unless there's any other comments, are we happy to agree the recommendations in this report? Agreed. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is item number 4, request for approval of direct bid to Heriot Watt Scholar, and Mary Docherty will be taking this. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. The report seeks Cabinet approval to award a contract directly to Heriot Watt Scholar without the need for open competition, given the exclusive rights associated with the programmes offered, which are also covered by a trademark. As noted in the report, the Scholar platform has been used for a number of years by our schools, both by senior pupils and teachers, to support the curriculum at National 5, Higher and Advanced Higher levels. Whilst expenditure to date has been covered by exemptions approved by the Chief Procurement Officer, the level of planned spend going forward would now take us over the £100,000 threshold noted in our standing orders, meaning we require Cabinet approval prior to renewing the licence for next school session. Based on the advice from the Chief Procurement Officer and the Chief Legal Officer, Regulation 33 of the Public Contracts Scotland Regulations 2015 is applicable in this instance, given the exclusive rights associated with this product. If approval is granted, the Department would seek to renew the subscription for school session 25-26 initially at a cost of £20,533, excluding VAT, but have the option to renew for a further 2 years, hence the request for approval to spend up to £65,000. Cabinet is therefore asked to approve a direct purchase specifically under Regulation 33(1)B, subparagraph 3 of the Public Contracts Scotland Regulations 2015 from Heriot Watt Scholar for a licence to use the online e-learning platform at an estimated cost of up to £65,000 across academic years 25-26 to 27-28. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Any questions on this?
Just a comment really that obviously I had a briefing already with Mark with regards to this, and the paper I think speaks for itself, and the only reasons it's here is because of that threshold ultimately.
Any other questions? No, pretty straightforward paper. Thank you very much, Mary. Can we all agree the recommendations in this paper? Agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 5, which is East Renfrewshire Council Sport and Physical Activity Strategy Year 2 Progress Report. And Siobhan's taking this. Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to update Cabinet on the progress made in Year 2 of the Sport and Physical Activity Strategy, which can be seen in Appendix 1. It provides a high-level summary based on the performance indicators and activities in the Sports and Physical Activity Strategy 2023 to 2028. The strategy reflects 6 active Scotland outcomes and how they are applied at a local level, and the overarching benefit of the Sport and Physical Activity Strategy is for more of our residents to be more active more often. Key achievements include 68% of schools achieving Gold Schools Sport Scotland Award, a significant increase in the number of people participating in outdoor physical activity and holiday programmes, an increase in the number of community-based interventions to support the NHS, an increase in the number of engaged volunteers in active schools and community sports, resulting in increased participation, officiating, volunteering and performance, and 24 participants having taken part in the Sports Leadership Academy. The information presented shows an overall positive and improving picture, although there are still areas where there's scope for further improvement in order to achieve the agreed outcomes by 2028. Cabinet is asked to scrutinise and comment on the Year 2 Progress Report on East Renfrewshire Council Sport and Physical Activity Strategy 2023 to 2028. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siobhan. I'll open this up to questions. Any questions? Councillor Anderson?
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, there's a lot of very good things in this, and there's a lot of great work happening, and some fantastic results with schools in particular. But obviously, the report itself highlights, the concerns. In particular, with the retaining, I think, in staff development and early learning and childcare. But also, I noticed as well about the people not getting out walking. It was something that occurred to me, and how do you encourage people to? It has dropped significantly, although it's still well above the baseline, but obviously difficult thing to challenge, and how do you change it? Do you have any thoughts on that, and how that's going to be dealt with?
I suppose the context for that is in East Renfrewshire it's still higher than the national average through the household survey, so it's not a picture that's we'd want to have. We want it to be higher, but it's not a picture where we think that we're lagging behind anywhere. I say in East Renfrewshire it's higher than near enough anywhere in Scotland in terms of household survey, but getting people walking. The first trigger to that is what we're trying to do is get people social interaction through some of our physical activity programs, so they've got the confidence to be able to do that. You'll know some of those programs through Living Well. You'll know some of those programs like Vitality program, which we're trying desperately to do that. One of the things that used to be common within East Renfrewshire was walking buses. So parents really would volunteer on a rota basis to lead walking groups, so pupils actually walk to schools from a central point, maybe a car park that was near a school or something like that. But since COVID, it's been hard to re-establish those things because obviously in COVID, there's a massive shock to the system, sport and physical activity, where nothing happened. So it's going to be an uphill battle to get people volunteering for those type of activities, but active school coordinators are working on that with schools to try and re-establish that.
Thanks, Ian. That makes sense. But as you said, it's once practice, something has changed. It's hard getting it back. But I appreciate I've got a lot of faith in the active schools and being and doing what they do. So yeah, I'm sure that will help. Thank you.
Councillor Pragnell.
Thank you for this report. I've just got one question. It's on strong partnership working with early years facilities. I've noticed there's been a slight drop. Do we know the reason for this? Is it, I suppose, council-run facilities versus private sectors, similar to what we were talking about in education last week, that can be slightly more difficult for those in the private sector to engage with services provided in East Renfrewshire?
It's probably a more basic one, down to the trust, where we have a small team who deliver most of the training support for early years establishments, and that's 2 people. And the year in question, last year, one of those people was off all year through ill health, and that person is now retired, taken early retirement, and we've recruited into that post. So we have full complement of staff to be able to deliver that training.
So I suppose when we get to the next reporting stage, you'll be confident that we'll see an increase, because as we were saying earlier, I mean, the work done by active schools in our schools is phenomenal in primary and secondary. I suppose we want the same for those in early years facilities. But I appreciate there's been challenges, and I look forward to seeing some results come into fruition.
Any other questions? I've got a couple of queries. Thanks very much for the reports. Again, as was stated earlier, lots of good progress. Just a couple of clarifications. There was talk of the ERCL Club accredited scheme through the Community Sports Hub. So I wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about what that is, please. And the more substantive question or clarification is really around the Ageing Well programme, with the activity being reduced, and how that plays with Vitality, which I know is going through the roof. So I wonder if you could help clarify those programmes and how they interact or not. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. One at a time, the Club Accreditation Scheme, we've put that in place really to enforce minimum standards for clubs, things like that they've got qualified coaches in the club, that personnel from the club have gone through child protection training, that there's appropriate ratios. So quite basic things really. We're putting in sort of minimum standards for all clubs. We've done really well in terms of that. Most of the clubs now, in terms of football clubs, which is by far the biggest contingent of local sports clubs, have gone through the accreditation scheme and have registered for that, because we've enforced that through making it a mandatory part of being able to apply for a sports pitch. So there's an incentive for them, and we're driving accreditation through that. So that's been successful. The other question was on
Living Well. So
Living
the
Well,
numbers
yeah.
have gone down, but I know Vitality has gone through the roof. So it's what's the story behind that, please?
The story behind that was we faced a point in time where the NHS is pushing us for more and more throughput, but after COVID, we were seeing more and more people who got more complex issues. So we needed more time with each person to talk through those complex issues. So we took a decision where the NHS is saying, well, you only need 5 minutes per person. It's like a doctor's appointment. We were saying, no, that's not appropriate for a lot of the people that are presenting now. So we've stretched that out to 15, 20 minutes per person because it's more complex needs. So we've got a longer period in terms of being able to triage each person, and we found that's had major benefits in really being able to signpost people into the most appropriate course of action, whether that's a gym membership, whether that's a program in terms of Vitality or Live Active or other things that we do. But that's been the base reason why we haven't we've hit the target, but NHS are trying to push us for stretching those targets, even though they haven't given us any more money to do that. We've pushed them each year for the last 3 years to say, well, if you want increased targets, give us some more money. But they've said, well, no, we haven't got any more money. So we say, well, we can't stretch the target because we have to be responsible to each individual. Say we need a certain amount of time to be able to triage them appropriately. But in terms of Live Active and Vitality, the demand is increasing, but the participation has increased measurably over the last 2 years.
Yeah, you can't go into Eastwood Leisure Centre without a huge bunch of people for the Vitality programmes, which is good to see. Just going back to the accreditation, so in terms of the total population of sports clubs out there in East Renfrewshire, how many have we still to reach in terms of accreditation?
We're probably looking at about 30% of clubs haven't accredited with our system. And we're trying to find a way of having a push like we did for football, where they've got to accredit if they want to apply to be a registered club to book a pitch. We're trying to find other ways. Can we do that in terms of booking of school facilities? As most of our clubs, or the vast majority of our clubs, use of a night and a weekend school premises, which the trust books out. So we're going to look in terms of our policy there to see if we can drive like that, like we did for football.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? None. So are we happy to agree the recommendation for this report? Agreed, thank you very much. So moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is Love to Ride, negotiated contract award, homologated. And who's taking this? John. Thank you, John.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to homologate the decision taken by 2 Cabinet members in April 2025 to approve the awarding of a negotiated contract to Love to Ride Limited for the provision of the Ride 365 programme. Due to the cancellation of the April Cabinet, direct approval from 2 councillors, Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Devlin, was sought to give and given for a 12-month contract with the option for a further 12 months at a total value of up to £80,000, all fully funded by external grants with no cost implications to the Council. Ride 365 is an evidence-based cycling behavioural change programme which aims to remove barriers, encourage uptake and promote the use of existing infrastructure. The Council can use this information to target support and to inform on infrastructure improvement and safety measures. The £39,675 programme for 25-26 includes access to the East Renfrewshire Council Love to Ride website, access to national campaigns and challenges, a dedicated coordinator who will outreach to communities and engage directly, a GPS trip data process for rating cycle routes and providing information on local infrastructure gaps. Love to Ride was introduced in 2022 and the total spend will exceed the upper approval threshold of £100,000 for a negotiated contract. And if the option for a further year is taken after this, then the full cost will be approximately £80,000 over that £100,000 threshold. Love to Ride is the only provider able to provide a national programme to East Renfrewshire Council, and the continuation of this programme will also allow to build on the current relationships between the coordinator and local community groups and businesses. Since 2022, there has been over 25,000 logged trips, with 11,000 of them being transport trips to and from a destination, and with almost 400 participants. Increasing numbers suggest an embedded behavioural change, which also has a positive impact on the Council's journey to net zero. Love to Ride provides a consistent engagement model for residents, businesses and employers within East Renfrewshire and encourages cycling as part of an active lifestyle. It also provides valuable information to help with future decision making on infrastructure. The £80,000 required for this contract is funded entirely by SPT and Transport Scotland, with no financial impacts on the Council's budgets. Can I ask that the Cabinet homologates the decision to award this negotiated contract to Love to Ride Limited to provide the Ride 365 programme? Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. Any questions on this? No. John, just one clarification on what you were saying there. And I don't know if it's a typo in the report on paragraph 14. You said there was a total number of rides which was 25,000, of which 44% was in transport trips. So that 11,000 is the 44%. It's not the total. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's sorry. The total is 25.
Total is 25, and of that 11 is transport. Okay, thanks for that clarification. So, are we happy to agree with the recommendation in this report? Agreed. Thank you very much, John. And moving on to, and I think it might be you, John, again, for the last item on the agenda, which is the East Renfrewshire Council B769 Sturton Road, Crookford Road and Orrs Road, Newton Mearns, 30 mph speed limit order 2025. Thank you, John.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is for Cabinet to consider the approval for changes to the road speed limits on sections of the B769 Sturton Road, the B7087 Crookford Road and C9 Orrs Road, Newton Mearns, to improve safety. The stretch of Sturton Road was upgraded in 2007-2008 to facilitate residential, retail and commercial development and has become a main pedestrian route for accessing retail, public transport and as well as educational establishments. Consequently, residents have expressed concerns regarding the speed of traffic. All routes covered by this report are currently 40 mph and have been subject to increased pedestrian traffic. Accident records for the area in the last 5 years show 6 reported injury collisions. The recent National Transport Strategy establishes a road user hierarchy of pedestrians over cyclists and then car occupants, and research confirms a direct correlation between collision frequency and severity with traffic speed. A full consultation has been carried out as required by the Local Authorities Traffic Orders Procedures Scotland Regulations 1999 with details in Appendix 4. This order, if approved, will implement a reduced speed limit applicable to all road users in order to address speeding and safety concerns in this busy urban transport corridor, promote safe travel, thus contributing to a potential reduction in accident casualties, and reduce vehicle emissions and encourage active travel. It is asked that the Cabinet should approve and authorise the making of this order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Any questions on this? Councillor Pragnell.
I've just got one question, and it's on the Sturton Road element of it. Are there any discussions with Glasgow City Council? Because from the map, it looks like the road order in Sturton Road would stop at the Glasgow City Council boundary, so it is. And I think this could cause confusion, given that Sturton Road is used kind of to get to Thornley Bank, which is in East Renfrewshire, and also Sturton Road past the East Renfrewshire boundary is also used by our residents trying to access Stricken Glen Park. So are there any discussions, because if certain bits of the road are different speeds, it could cause some confusion?
Currently, the new 30 limit will come where the pavements are narrowed and there's a distinct border there. Also, it has to be done in conjunction with Police Scotland, and at the moment they are not keen on reducing speed limits when there's only pavements on one side of the road, because there's not the likelihood of people crossing the road. So from where we start, the pavements are on both sides of the roads, but the bit between us and Glasgow is only pavemented on one side. Okay.
I'm glad you raised that, Councillor Pragnell. I had a similar question, because it is going to be odd for Sturton Road to have two speed zones when for the motorists and the users they're substantially the same. So I think that's something that you'll be keeping on the radar in the future in terms of how you approach that. Okay, Councillor Anderson.
I remember having discussions at our community council when this happened with Airwood, and it went from 40 to 30. And what happened was the 40 mph signs were removed, and then signs were put up saying new speed limit in place. And someone pointed out the fact that, well, it doesn't say 30. And that was, for them, a bit confusing. But then someone else has quite correctly pointed out, well, for that type of road that has street lighting, the default is 30. So you don't, am I right in saying that you don't, will this happen in this stretch of road as well, when it changes, where the 40 signs will just come down and it won't actually say the limit's 30? Or is a norm to actually just, people should know what the default is?
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. My understanding is that the 30 signs will be at the beginning and end of each bit, but in the middle of the area, it would say new speed limit applies. But I think when it's a 40, we can put 40 in the middle, but when it's a 30, it's only got to be as you cross into it, and then have the new speed limit applies for a time until people get used to that.
That's what worries me, is that people will join the road somewhere in between.
There will be 30 at each join onto it, 30 signs at each join onto it. So
that's fine. I think also people should actually know, though, what the default is for that type of road, and in the absence of something, then a sign that says it's 40, the default is 30.
That brings back the point about the rest of Chiltern Road not being done, so, and potential confusion, so, which we discussed earlier. So, if there's no other questions, are we happy to agree recommendations in this report? Agreed? Thank you very much, and that draws us to the end of today's Cabinet meeting. Thank you very much.